as we go through like some of the smaller technical issues in the process. But look, let's get to the main stuff as usual to get you up to speed with everything that you need to know from the market perspective before we get into the usual show. Starting with the price action as always, with Bitcoin down a couple of percent, hanging on to 100K at the moment, I believe, if my screen is up to date at 100,000.2. 100.2K. ETH's down around 4% to 3.2K. XRP is down around 5% as well to $2.20. BNB is down 1% to $939. Sol's down 3% to 153. What else do we have here? Hyperliquid's down another 4% to $38 again. So red day across the board, not a red day for Zcash, on the other hand, which is up 19.5% to $631. You cannot stop Zcash at the moment. In terms of the other memes, you've got Doge up, which is flat around 16 cents. Pepe is flat. Let me just refresh to make sure these prices are definitely correct. We've got Pump down 5% back to 3.7 bill FDV. We've got Bonk flat. Pengu's down another 5%. Pengu has moved down pretty heavy there. SPX, Murad's coin down 7% as well. So very much a red day across the board, with the only green tokens being one, well, the very significant one, Zcash up 20%, ICP up 42% to $8.50, and Filecoin up 57% to $2.10. This has got to be like warning signs. I'm pretty sure these coins usually move pretty late in the cycle in general, but they're still moving for now. So that is, I guess, the current opportunity on the table. Getting into the headlines themselves, we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk Bitcoin falling back beneath 100K and Zcash moving up. What are we going to do about that? Google integrating prediction market data via Polymarket and Kalshi. That's pretty huge news, I think, extending the influence of prediction markets into the more traditional search world. Tesla shareholders approve Elon Musk's potential $1 trillion pay package over the next decade. Always find that conversation interesting, so we'll touch on that as well. In terms of some notable sales, got Tyler Hobbs Fidenza here selling for around $70,000. CryptoPunk Blonde selling for 50 ETH. Rare Pepe Nakamoto selling for around 35 ETH. In terms of the other collections, Pudgy Penguins around 5.75 ETH. Moonbirds at 2. Bored Apes at 5.74. And I'm trying to see some other significant movers there. These Cambria NFTs went on a big move yesterday. Something's up 165%. Could be potentially token related. I know Cambria's taken on a lot of investment over time. So that is some news there. Getting into the rest of the roundup to get you up to speed, we've got MegaETH revealing the 5,000 people selected for what they called the conviction round, which is their ICO allocations. Pretty cool imagery there. The art on MegaETH continuously being pretty cool. Layer Zero buys $10 million of Zro from the open market for its balance sheet. They thought it is undervalued against the rest of the market. Stable pre-deposit campaign phase 2 was paused yesterday due to too much demand. Deposits were reopened and they're still open for another 24 hours today. However, it's not going to run out. They're going to get oversubscribed and then give an allocation, kind of in the similar way to Plasma did it. This is a Plasma competing stablecoin chain, which has had some issues with the deposit campaigns as they've got filled up very, very quickly and suspiciously from a few number of wallets. So probably a lucrative one to be able to get into if you can get in with decent size. Bitwise prepares to launch a Doge ETF. Monad announces that locked tokens will not be eligible for staking, which is sometimes a controversial point for some of these bigger tokens. Cryptoys announces Disney is coming to Abstract. Bob, building on Bitcoin, announces a token. This is like a Bitcoin EVM compatible chain. Announces token and community sale taking place on CoinList between November the 10th to 13th. So that's in a few days. And then finally, Jesse Polak, leading base, launches Jesse XBT yesterday, an AI agent of himself to help answer more questions than builders. Interesting development. We've always joked that we want to produce so much content that we can create AI versions of ourselves who can run the show in some capacity one day. So maybe that is the future. we'll monitor if that's an effective strategy. That is the roundup to get you up to speed with everything you need to know today. Before we get to the main headlines, Legendary, is there anything that is catching your attention here before we head over to Brad, maybe getting some reflections on the mega stuff, and if there's anything else catching his attention?
The thing I'm really curious about is to hear more from Brett on the mega stuff. Apart from that, I don't have anything else to really comment on from the roundup.
Okay, I want to say one thing then before we get to the mega stuff. I want to say that I've noticed that some of these CoinList pre-sales have been doing quite well as well. So you've got a variety of pre-sale options. So if we just go through them, summarizing for the people who are listening in, who obviously want to try to participate in these, if they are eligible, because they are so attractively priced, or they can be so attractively priced. Obviously, you need to make that decision for yourself. You've got Echo and Sonar. Echo being on the private side, Sonar being the public ICO side, which is the one that MegaETH just the deposit that MegaETH just ran. So you've got that all run by Kobe, just got acquired by Coinbase. So that's like one area. You've got Legion as well, who have done the yield basis pre-sale, which was incredibly oversubscribed for a small amount of allocation. They're currently doing the Tria pre-sale, which I believe is also incredibly oversubscribed. Tria being one of our partners who we shouted out on Monday. And they're also doing Machina, which is something I've deposited a significant amount in, and they just released an article showing that. So you've got the Legion one, and you've also got CoinList, which is one that I'm definitely the least familiar with. One that I don't think I'm KYC'd on at the moment, whereas I am with the others. And someone, I think it was Swizzy, shout out to Swizzy in our chat and on Twitter, sharing that one of the tokens they shared yesterday, or that they did on CoinList, did like a 6x at TGE with a reasonable amount. It might have been 100% liquid, or maybe less than that, but it's still a really, really good outcome. So it looks like even on CoinList, it can be an incredibly attractive proposition at the moment. Ledge, I was just curious whether you have gone in the CoinList direction at all. Are you signed up there? Have you done stuff there? Are you seeing any of these pre-sale platforms more attractive to you, less attractive to you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I set up to CoinList 2020. Yeah, I think it was 2020. It was like the last time, or 2021 maybe. We've seen a big run on many ICOs there, where they had like a karma system. Then they had a queuing system at some point where you would like wait for hours in front of your browser window in a queue to get in and then get some allocation. So we did have that before. It's like not a new platform, which I think is also important to understand, which is now running it back with the popularity of ICOs. I haven't been using it now recently. And I think the token that you referenced was Intuition that did run.
Yes, this is the one.
Saw Whale posting about that too. Apparently it was super easy to get into that one because nobody was paying attention to CoinList back then when this was happening, maybe a couple of weeks ago or so when the sale went live.
It feels like this is the way to generate profit right now. Like we've said it before on the show. We said it when it came to Plasma. The way to generate demand at the moment is to artificially constrict the supply of your token that is available, constrict the valuation, make sure anyone who gets in at that valuation is going to make money so that they are happy. And then you make sure that they win. And getting into those things, whether with a large allocation or small allocation, is the way to generate profits for people at the moment, and is simultaneously create some good sentiment around your token. So I think that is the strategy that's been the strategy for a while. That will continue to be the strategy for a little bit here, as a number of people try to pursue the same strategy. But you want to just bear in mind that that is the methodology at the moment. And so each time that happens, I think the power of it can reduce depending on the strength of the project. I think a strong project can do well irrespective, but as more average projects try to do the same thing, you might have diminishing returns. Speaking of, the ICO situation and landscape, Bread, you're coming fresh off announcing the actual allocations yesterday. So you've been through the whole process now. The allocations are announced. Do you want to speak to? Maybe let's do it like this. What are the core? How did you feel getting it out as a team? And what's the general reaction been? And any reflections so far?
It's been a journey, I'll say. It's like I think the learning for me is and we try to paint as clear a picture as possible, is to try to be even more clear or find other vehicles to showcase where people are relative to the field, because it is fucking impossible, frankly, to communicate to anyone in this environment that like what they're comparing to is just like it's not what like is not what the system was intended for. Like as an example is like I think it was good. I honestly think we did really good. I think the reception was good. We're getting a lot of people that were happy with what it is whenever they understood like the methodology and like actually took the time to read through stuff and see how things were, and then frankly just understand that it's a tough task. Like anyone who's like in that bucket was like, okay, cool, I get it. But then like I see people who just like all they see is the number. Like they see my number versus every other number. And I'm like, guys, like you have to understand what we are trying to achieve with this, and that you are not even in the same bucket. Right? Like you're seeing like like Kook is the biggest example everyone's talking about. It's like, oh, you gave Kook $170,000, whatever. And it's like, you know what, guy? Like he won, like objectively was just like scored really well in this stuff. With his on-chain score, with his social score, all this stuff. And he locked for a year. So like the number that he has is for someone that came to us and said like, look, I trust what you guys are doing. Like if you anonymized his actual profile and you just said like, this person has a social score of, you know, we derive our own process to figure this stuff out, but social score in the top, you know, 0.5 percentile, on-chain score in the top 5% percentile, and they're willing to lock for a year. It's like, that's a really strong person that is like demonstrated with their past behaviors on chain that we've seen, like with the wallets that they gave us, that like this is someone that we want in the ecosystem to hold our token. And people see just the number and they go, why would you give this amount of this to this person whenever you have someone that, whatever, just random example, got $20,000? And like, well, that other person didn't score as well and they unlocked their token. So like they're kind of perceiving this as a trade more so than like they believe that we're actually going to do what we're doing and understand what like we're trying to build, and have faith that it'll be worth more than we're giving to them in a year from now. So like I heard some.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So would it be fair to say it sounds like the locked aspect, based on the original wording, it sounds like the locked aspect. I'm trying to understand like where some of the confusion might be coming from, and it feels like the locked aspect was maybe more
at a higher weight,
more important than some of the other weights, and that could be the very much the, you know, as you say, it's a signal of loyalty and all of this stuff. So that could be the case, but maybe that's where some of the confusion was, because people thought, okay, well, you're going to look at the ethos score, you're going to look at if they locked or not, and you're going to look at their on-chain score, and you're going to look at if they had some NFTs, and you're going to have a look at this stuff, and maybe they didn't appreciate the weighting. Do you think that would be fair to say?
So I would say that like we obviously didn't tell people exactly what would go into what. We told the criteria, they didn't, but they had to speculate. I think people misjudged how everyone else would behave. Right. So if you were to look at that pool, like the sample size, 50,000 people said, no, we won't lock. 50,000. So if you said, I am not locking, whether you're in like, so you're going against 50,000 other profiles on chain, social, whatever. And we got people that have been in this industry since 2017, huge social presences. Like I would say, like you saw him on the timeline. Salsa Taiki, right? He's a trader from 2017, big popular person, and like several other big ones. I don't know if they've said anything, so I'm not going to disclose your name, but hundreds of thousands of followers, been here for a long time. So they got a strong social, presumably a strong on-chain, and they got minimum allo to no allo. So those are the people you're fighting against in that pool versus the people who locked, frankly, was very thin. It was you against 4,000 other people. And everyone has to remember that like every decision we make, the meme like terminology we use for it is mega GDP. Like every decision we are making is to make sure the long-term health of the ecosystem is appropriately done. So if we were to give 5% of the token supply to all of these people unlocked just because the majority of people asked for unlocked, like, guys, like, that's probably not the best decision for the token to just dump that on the market to everyone that's perceiving this as a trade, right? That doesn't have faith in this thing for a long term. When you have people like Grail who are in the 1 year lock, fully understand our thesis and are trying to like actually understand and like be here for the long term, that's someone we want. Serpentax, I mean, he didn't tie his social, so like there was a gap there, but like his profile is exactly the type of person we want. Someone that's long term oriented, someone that's been present in the space, like all of those things. So for us, yes, of course we're going to give the majority of the locked time, because those are people that see us and are committing future time to us. They say, hey, I may not have been in the trenches with you, I may not have been legendary on the timeline bull posting about bad buns for the last 6 months, like all this shit, right? Actually, like talking about us. So he didn't build up the previous time that he spent with us and showing to us that, you know what, like, I'm starting to see what you guys are doing. Things are cool. They're promising future time to us, and that future
Sure.
time is something that we gave weight to and said, you know what? If you're actually going to be here for a while, we want to make sure that you're properly allocated.
Got it.
I think it's fair to say that it was way more competitive in the unlocked versus the locked bucket, and I feel
10 to 1 difference.
Moritz had a good post on that. Jump in, Brett, if any of
Yeah.
what he is writing is inaccurate, and we're getting this up on screen. So Moritz did get an unlocked allocation of $49,000. He posted it publicly, so obviously I'm comfortable to talk about that. And he then, I think you in a comment basically shared what his scoring was across on-chain, social, and total score. And he basically then looked at the scoring for the locked bracket, and he was like, if I had locked instead of the 45-ish, 49-ish K, 49K that he got, he would have more been between this 179, 183K allo in terms of total score. So I think that maybe helps to put in perspective that locking, basically if everything else did stay the same, would have meant you get a 3 to 4x times higher allo.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And it's like, remember, the pool of people are different. If you look at the everything that we displayed with the actual methodology, we showed all of these numbers on, what was it, the 5th, Wednesday, right? We said, look, the algorithm that we use for allocating money to the people that are locked is different than the one we use for people that are unlocked, right? We said, we're capping this at a certain percentage. The pool is actually bigger. The pool is like, I was at 3 to 1 on like the unlocked people versus locked people. So what we did is we went really wide with the amount of people that we exposed to unlock, because the pool was just bigger. And then the people who came in and said, you know what, we're willing to lock for a longer time, we were very selective and we gave higher allocation proportionally to those people. It's just like we had to deal with what the bidding pool gave us. And the bidding pool was majority unlocked, lots of capital. We're seeing Sybils pull out in a large amount. And we just it's just what we had to do with what people gave us. And we think this is the best decision, again, for the ecosystem, for mega GDP is the meme. Every decision we make is with that in mind. We want everything to be successful, and we think this is the best way to give out that capital. We isolated the people that gave us time already, and we said, you know what, even though you guys specifically are requesting the exact same thing, right? You're requesting unlocked capital. I think both of you guys got higher than the #1 outside of community thing, because both of you guys have been participating inside of our community for the last 6 months, year, since I've been doing it, right? I've been doing this stuff for a year. People that have been along for the ride have paid the time, they've paid the social presence, they've paid the mind share, they've paid by demonstrating the behaviors that we want. We rewarded that with a higher unlocked capital. Again, you guys probably, I know, I don't want to give away numbers, but like you guys did well, more than the cap of the unlocked stuff. And the anyone else that's promising future stuff, whether the locked or unlocked, like we're just tougher on them.
The way that I think a nice way you framed it, if you're going to be thinking about this moving forward, is like people who are unlocked depended on the time that you've given so far, and those other people who are locking, they're promising you future time, and that I think was a nice explanation. And by the way, we had an interesting conversation when you weren't on the show, I think on Monday or Tuesday or yesterday or something like that, in terms of just like how transparent does anyone need to be. And I guess with these things, people will always want more transparency, more, tell us the exact rules beforehand. But I was defending not just your right, but anyone's right, any company, corporate's right to keep some of that information in your pocket and not tell people, and just exercise your own judgment in the heat of the moment. to decide, you've got this mega GDP concept. Other companies might have some other priority, to not always show all of your cards all of the time in advance, because then people game the system. People will behave differently than what they would ordinarily. So I think from that perspective, that's important for people to bear in mind as well. But any final thoughts, Brad? Maybe looking forward to what people might need to know in the next few days or next week or so before we continue with the show and get into the other headlines today.
Yeah. Okay. So two things on the current state of things. One is, yeah, I agree. I would never give the exact details of what we're doing, because it's a self-selection thing as well, right? Like, we want people to show who they are versus like them seeing the rules of the road and like changing their natural behavior in order to game the system, right? If someone, even though someone like could still perceive the 1 year thing as a trade, like, they're all trades in this space. We understand that, we get it. We participate in this space. For someone to change their behavior and say like, oh, I'll just, instead of dumping now, I will dump in a year, versus someone that says like, you know what, a year, 2 years, whatever, I'm more inclined to like lock up for this. That's okay for me. We would rather the fringe people like self-select into the, like, I'm doing this short term, I think the cycle's over, blah, 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 and go down that path. So one is that. Two, for the next step is that there's 2 weeks of us having to hold on to this money due to MiCA requirements, right? Like, so we have to give people the ability to withdraw their funds. And whenever they withdraw, if they were previously allocated Mega, then their Mega is going to everyone else in the pool. Now, how ultimately it's distributed depends on how many people pull out. So that's TBD, but we have to allow people to withdraw. People who withdraw, give up their Mega will go back to the pool. So we have roughly 2 weeks that goes until the 19th is when we lock in the actual numbers, or the ability for people to cancel. So we have 2 weeks of us continuing to sift through the data to see who is in the bid pool, who, like, what their allocations were. And but frankly, we're still looking for Sybils. We're still looking for people that maybe have snuck through. We've set up some traps for people to check their wallets that will ultimately reveal their hands. So we're trying to see what we can find with that. And we're going to remove their allocation. And if their allocation goes away, then that also will be distributed to people. So I think I've already seen something like $700,000 worth has withdrawn from the pool. So that will go back to other people who hold their lockup and try to write some inaccuracies. Because frankly, man, it was a lot of data. 54,000 addresses, $1.4 billion. We had 5 days to sift through it and say, these are the right people that got the right stuff. And there's always going to be misses whenever you're dealing with a large amount of data like that, and you can't specifically handpick every single thing. So we're trying to look for special cases, and we're all going through DMs and trying to see, where exceptions maybe need to be made, and then we'll use the reallocation funds to make some adjustments.
Okay, good stuff, man. Well, good luck with the rest of it. I guess the story is not over then necessarily. So we will continue to check in with you on the developments of that. And well done for getting through, as you said, $1.4 billion worth, 50,000 addresses in 4 days. Good stuff. Right, we're going to get to the headlines in a moment, as usual, to discuss everything else that's going on in space. But just a reminder that today we're delighted to say we are sponsored by Yeet, the crypto casino that has done hundreds of millions of volume in the last few months, founded by trusted names like Mando, KBM, and pro poker player Ben Lam. We are users of site. Legendary is, of course, Limbo GCR over there. So it's a very natural partnership for us. A reminder to only gamble for fun and what you're comfortable with. And to help there, we're giving out $500 each week randomly to players active under the Modern Market affiliate link, which is in the comments. So do check Yeet out. They have a number of crypto-themed games and sports coming soon. Stay tuned for the giveaway, which will take place later today if you were active on our Yeeter board. So we'll do that at the end of today's show as usual to bring the week to a close. But let's get to the first headline. Before that, we've got Bitcoin flirting with under 100K again, whilst Zcash is, you just can't stop it at the moment, soaring past $600 here. Incredibly volatile. But Legendary, what do we need to know about Bitcoin's decline, Zcash continuing its soaring up? What numbers are you looking at? What data are you looking at? What do we need to know here?
Yeah, absolutely. We did start the show with 6-figure Bitcoin. Bitcoin did drop under 100K. It's trading at 99 point. What is the current number? 99.6. So we are back at 5-digit BTC. However, if you take a look at the Bitcoin ETF flows, which we've been looking at the entire week, yesterday was actually the first day in I say in quite a while, in 8 days, where we've seen inflows again. 240 mil of net inflows coming through. But as you said, doesn't stop the decline at the moment. However, and that's also a continuous conversation, which we've been having this week, is to do with the Zcash price action. Now at $630, up another 75% on the week. And currently, in terms of the market cap at 10.3 bill, where Hyperliquid being down 12 or 13% of the week is at 12.85 bill. So Zcash is within less than 30% of flipping Hyperliquid when it purely comes to the market cap side of things.
Okay. What do we do about this here? What do we do about this, Legendary? Yesterday we had an interesting chat where I was making an argument. You know, we are both sidelined, as they say on Zcash. And I just started to think, you know, this is not a fun situation to be in, but it started to make me think of the time just before I arrived in the space where ETH just exploded up and it just couldn't be contained, right? It went from nothing it went from triple digits to 2K very, very quickly. Then maybe it went back to 1500 or something and was chilling out there for a while. I'm just wondering out loud if this is got that same type of energy, not comparing the two assets in terms of functionality in any way at all, but just capturing the energy and zeitgeist of the space. So, you know, we talked about it yesterday, Ledge, but curious for your position here. Are you just going to relax and say, look, I've missed this one. I'm not going to stress about it?
Yeah, it's weird because I still have this hard time to judge it, how much of it is to be taken seriously as a privacy layer and how much is the meme side of things. And especially with that news coming from Binance, I don't know if you've seen that yesterday, that basically said if your Zcash had ever touched a shielded pool, it's no longer welcome. They'll only accept deposited Zcash that stayed fully transparent, which means where you can trace it within the KYC and AML framework of centralized exchanges. So basically, Binance is, what was the exact pop-up? Said, yeah, please note that the private de-shielding transactions sent to this address may not be credited and may lead to asset loss. So, you know, feel free to use it. But if you want to then move it to a centralized exchange, with Binance being the example here, you can actually maintain that privacy layer. So that makes it even trickier for me to judge. And I'm fully aware that I might be mid-curving that instead of just hitting the buy button finally.
Yeah, you're definitely analyzing this on a proper basis, which I think sometimes is the right thing to do, maybe is not the right thing to do in this case. Although I would prefer the best investments I like is ones where you can kind of left curve it and right curve it. Something like Hyperliquid, where you had this rabid community, absolutely loved the product, absolutely were sending it higher and was going parabolic. But at the same time, you could fall back on these fundamentals, this money they were making, the buybacks, and that felt like left and right in unison. I guess what you're saying is you're trying to figure out how much of this is right curve, how much of it is left curve, and it's not straightforward. But Brad, very curious for your thoughts here. I know you've been maybe busy on the mega side, but impossible to have not seen the Zcash run up here. What are your thoughts? Curious,
bro. It's perfectly fitting. It's perfectly fitting exactly how I described it. It's a fucking meme, and like I'm so glad I got out of the way of this fucking thing, because like you guys know, like I'm on this trader arc, whatever. Like, and I said like I'm sticking to things that I can like wrap my head around. I've never been good at meme trading, and like, which I guess could be like really strong narrative trading. Same stuff. It's like I'm sticking to things that I understand, things that like generate the cash flow, things or whatever, which are getting a little beat up right now, which is fine. Like I'll just bide my time. This thing's like, it's not being used. Like you're never gonna like ever fit this thing into the cash flow stuff. So this is purely the Bitcoin mimetic security, whatever stuff. Like you're never gonna see they're generating a shit ton of fees. The validators are eating all that's like none of that stuff is applies here. So I dabbled at this. I thought it was a narrative thing. I tried shorting it, got blown out like a month ago or whenever it was. And it's like, I'm not touching this thing again. And I think we're just continuously seeing the old bread stepping in front of this every single week and going like, there's no way it can go up again, and they're shorting it and they're getting blown out, and then the next row gets in and they get shorted, and then like those eventually those people will run out and those people will stop stepping in front of it, and that'll be its top. I can't predict when that's going to happen. So like,
but maybe that's just exactly what keeps happening. Someone like you will just keep saying, I am going to short this now. That's what keeps happening. And then the shorts just keep getting blown out because there's too many people shorting.
It's too much momentum. Yeah, it's got the meme energy. It's like, it's the they don't understand it. They're trying to wrap their heads around it. They're doing the same thing that I'm doing. Like, oh, Hyperliquid's generating a gajillion dollars a year. That thing should be pumping, and not this. This thing should go to zero. It's all a cabal play from the Solana bros. They're doing like, and they're just like, they're not believing any of that shit, and they're getting in front of it, and they're getting whacked. So like, I'm not playing the game anymore. And I'm thinking a lot of people are making that decision as well.
Kind of tempted to go the other side though. Okay, fine, don't want to play the game and go against it, which I guess historically was always the right thing to do at some point in time, because Zcash has been one of the assets that always sparks the decline in the rest of the market and starts to go down when the rest of the market goes down a lot. But I'm feeling that Ethereum energy. Like I'm feeling the energy that took ETH from triple digits to 2K. And bear in mind, I was not even in the space at that point. I just like studied a bit when I got in. But when the space just gets obsessed with something like ETH in 2021, people got obsessed with. That was the absolute pinnacle for feeling something.
They were doing stuff. It wasn't just like,
because it was so used. It was used for NFTs. It was, and I know what you mean. Okay, fine, Zcash not being used in that same way, but maybe it doesn't need to be to capture the same energy, because
then your equivalent is Bitcoin, right? I mean, there's a lot of parallels there already with the, it's a fork of Bitcoin, but private. It's like the narratively, it's very similar to there. They're already mentally pegging it to Bitcoin price. Oh, it's going to go to $1 billion, like all that stuff. It's like everyone's doing that already. But like you can't do the ETH mapping, because ETH had so many different factors, because people were using it. They were doing NFTs, they were doing meme coin trading, they were doing gas prices are bullish. That like everything was different, because it was all, this is going to be the oil of the internet shit. That none of that applies here. It is literally just like privacy.
Yeah, maybe it's just price. It's like
privacy is under
indexed as well. Could this go to 2K? Because that's maybe the I'm definitely like mixing metaphors in a way. It's like taking the Bitcoin energy, but then mapping it to the ETH price action from 2021 ish. It's not a coherent metaphor at all, but obviously doing a little reconstruction here of a narrative to support the price action. But let's see. I'm kind of tempted to do the opposite. I'm not getting in the way of it, as Brad said, but I might get involved if it can just give me.
And so it was like, thinking that in the same way as you did, right? Remember when we did the same thing for Pump and for Hype and for everything? We had comps where we could sit here and say, this thing's generating $1 billion in revenue a year. It's worth $3 billion. That feels really ridiculous, right? We can do these things, like PE ratios, whatever, and say like, guys, that's relative to what this maps to in Web 2. That's underpriced, and the industry will catch up, and then you make the play. That's what we did to justify our Pump positions, our ZK, or not ZK, our Hype positions, all that stuff. This has none of that. This is literally vibes. There is no upper bound. There is no lower bound. That's why it went from the 3,000 to $1 before.
Also, just a good one to keep an eye on, or good metric to keep an eye on. Ledge, am I right in thinking, so you've got this screen shared, this is the 12th largest coin now in crypto?
Let's see. It should be, right? Yeah. One of Hyperliquid.
I mean, at 12, I mean, to continue to believe in its upside from here, you need to start thinking, okay, well, this is going to 2x, it's going to 3x from here, at which point you have to believe that it's going to go past what? It's going to go past Doge in market cap if it 2.5x's from here.
I mean, it depends on the comparison, right? Like saying going past Doge is maybe like, yeah, I don't see it happening. But going past Cardano, for example, doesn't seem that outlandish.
Yeah,
Cardano also not used, so like that's a fair comparison. Like the only way I could feasibly do this with is you would look at the top ranked coins and you would say, this unique property that Zcash allows for belongs in the top whatever tokens. So like that's the only comp you can do is the number on the market cap rankings. You can't do anything that is mapped to like the actual utilization of the thing. So you should say a privacy coin belongs in the top 5. Privacy coin belongs in the top 10. So that's the only thing you can do. Whether or not like that's actually going to happen.
In which case, if it was to go in top 10, that's like rough 2x upside in terms of market cap from here. And then if you were going to say top 5, which I don't know if you would or you wouldn't, but if you were going to, that is a 12x from here to get in the region of BNB. So
my general pushback is people don't give a shit about privacy. Like it's a great meme right now. People are thinking about it. They don't like this. It's my pushback for like, they don't use the fucking thing. They don't use the fucking thing because no one actually gives a shit. So like, yes, it's a sexy narrative right now. I do not believe anyone genuinely gives a crap about privacy outside of a few diehards, and anyone else who sees that. It's the same, like it's the same thing we saw with like giving up your data to Google and like,
yeah, we've seen this in Web 2 already, right?
I'm opting into all the ads. Give me everything.
You guys are the best example for that. You guys are the best example with MegaETH, with the dashboard that showed how many people who had like wallets that were linked to X publicly via their trading activity and assets that Arkham identify, didn't bother to like go via a centralized exchange. And there was like many good friends of ours, prominent people in there who like, I don't care about that. I'm gonna max send 186K, and I don't care if people know that this is my wallet and this is me as a person doing that.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So yeah, interesting conversation. We got to keep moving today because we've only got 10 minutes left already, and we need to get to our Yeet giveaway as always to bring the week to a close in 10 minutes. So let's hit the rest of the headlines because they are a couple of interesting ones here. We've got first Google integrating prediction market data via Polymarket and Kalshi. Brett, I'm curious, you're taking us through this one. What are the key things we need to know here? And what's the significance for the poly markets, the prediction markets?
Yeah, it's not a great show out for my very first new production quality thing. I actually didn't review this. I saw it on the timeline a shit ton. But Polymarket and Kalshi are both integrated to Google. I don't know the finer details of it, so I'm going basically just on the headlines like you guys are. And I like the irony is that I saw on the timeline that both teams were bull posting this simultaneously. So I saw like 7 screenshots of John Wang going, "Oh, just another day at Kalshi," and then like 3 people with Polymarket badges going, "Oh, just, Polymarket's going to take over the world." So I think just the bigger thing here is that, man, prediction markets are a great vehicle for this stuff to continue to grow, and we're just going to continue to see it expand. It's just both regulatorily because it does arbitrage a little bit of like the sports betting stuff that's coming down hard in America, and because it's just like it is a great vehicle that everyone can participate in, and basically any sector, because you can create a prediction market on anything. I just think another bull point for prediction markets broadly as a vehicle.
A bit more context there is Google Finance is basically being revamped. They get a couple of new features that includes an AI integration with Google's own Gemini. And exactly as Brett had said, they now deem prediction markets relevant enough to want to actually tap into those data sources and provide them as a stable with Google Finance when you look into the respective markets or related assets.
So this actually, thank you for that. So this actually ties me back to what Myriad is doing. I don't know if you guys saw like the plugin, which is actually sick. Yeah, like for anyone else in the crowd who hasn't seen it, Myriad is Farouk's prediction market that they've been building, and they have a plugin that is context aware of what you're browsing, and if there is a prediction market that is relevant to the thing that you're searching, it'll pull up the prediction market on the side. So it's this confluence of news media with prediction markets, because as we all know, prediction markets is like, people believe an attempt to it's a truth-seeking machine, right? Like we think money allows us to see the actual truth behind something. So if you are browsing, say, a page about Bitcoin, and it'll pull in a prediction market that's active that says, is the price of Bitcoin going to be blah 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 by this date, or is the next hard fork for Ethereum going to be blah 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 by this date? And it pulls that in as an overlay, so you can actually see what people are betting on the likely outcome of the current context you're reading on your screen, which is, I think that is something, it was a really elegant way to like tie those two things together, which I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, really, really interesting. As you say, tying news, media, prediction markets, search all together. I definitely think it's going to be super integrated into everything moving forward. So that's just confirmation of that. Actually makes me think if you haven't already figured out a way to get some exposure to these prediction markets, it might be late in the day. You don't know when the token's coming out necessarily. Probably worth playing around with to some degree. Of course, not trying to lose tons of money on it, but trying to get some exposure by being a participant, I think. Okay, final headline for the day before we get to the Yeet giveaway in just a moment. We'll be giving away $500 to one of our users from our Yeet affiliate link. This is the headline, kind of stepping outside of crypto just a touch to consider more corporate stuff. Elon Musk's 1 trillion pay package been approved by Tesla. This is a pay package which is quite controversial. It has an extremely ambitious set of targets over the next 10 years. It would obviously make him the richest man in the world by a distance. It is set up in a way that is incredibly challenging. So he'll need to deliver 20 million Tesla vehicles over the next decade, which is more than double the number churned out over the past 12 years. And he'll be tasked with dramatically increasing the company's valuation and operating profits. Another requirement is for Tesla to roll out 1 million AI-powered robots, despite the fact, obviously, the Tesla robot has not been released so far. I mean, we've seen lots of examples and previews of the robot. I can't remember the name now. It's escaped me. What's the Optimus? Optimus, that's the one. The Optimus robot, really, really cool looking device. We haven't seen one yet though. So this is a huge pay package linked to a very stringent set of performance metrics across the original Tesla car business as well as the robot business. So is there anything here, Legendary, that is interesting to you? What is your reaction to this, either from the business perspective when it comes to Tesla itself, robots, or even just the fact that, this is finally getting through in America after there being a bunch of pushback against Musk and his compensation packages in an attempt to kind of rein in his compensation recently? What are your thoughts?
I'll tackle it from a shareholder's perspective. I'm happy they voted that thing through. Ultimately, one of the key requirements, which is the important number, is that Tesla's market cap goes to 8.5 trillion, meaning that it goes up another 460% from here, meaning that it flips NVIDIA. So basically, if this guy manages to 4.6x my stock over the next years, go for it. Take your trillion. And that's not the only thing, is that there are other requirements in terms of like profitability as well. So even if he pumps Tesla to 8.5 trillion, he's not guaranteed to get the entire package. There's like more stuff that he has to fulfill. So from a shareholder's perspective, and I think 75% did vote in favor of that, it would be actually pretty dumb to vote against that, because it's like giving this guy the biggest incentive anyone has ever had, financially speaking, in the entire world, to like even further gigascale the company from here.
Yeah, I don't mind it. We're obviously in a culture at the moment where, as the technocrats increase their wealth and as everyone else finds it harder to accrue wealth, there's incredible amounts of pushback when you see these types of numbers. Personally, I'm aligned with you because this aligns incentives for the CEO and the shareholders. So, if he pulls these incredibly ambitious targets off, then, he gets compensated in an incredibly ambitious way. And so you feel like, okay, well, if you're going to be able to do something as insane as that, then you should maybe get an insane package. That would be my instinct. But I guess against the backdrop of what is taking place, not just in the States, but across the world, is where some of that criticism comes from. Brad, do you have a view here on, from the shareholder perspective, anything on the Tesla company itself? I know you've got a very healthy allocation to stocks in general. Is Tesla one of them? What are your thoughts?
No, it's not. Although, like, the thing to know for me is just this power law we're starting to see in this technological age. You kind of already noted that with the technocrats accumulating wealth. I mean, between like NVIDIA and a few of these other companies that are just like with AI, man, they're just like starting to just eat the lion's share of money that's going to be generated, or at least they're ambitioning to, right? Like we're seeing 5 to 10 companies spending absurd amounts of money in order to capture the next 5, 10, 15 years of what we believe is going to be insane growth and productivity. So for me, it's just like a data point, observing that like we're probably going to continue to see a little bit of a power law here, and I think I'm trying to understand what the secondary impacts of that are.
One interesting thing you might like, Brad, I don't think you were on the show, and I said, or maybe you were. It was last week or this week. I can't remember. Time's difficult. I said, we've been talking about like getting exposure to robotics and time, and we did say there are some interesting opportunities for some of these newer robotic startups via some of those pre-sale companies. They're not pre-sales, right? They're early stage investing. So there are interesting opportunities that come up. However, my rule to myself will be, for every dollar I put into something speculative, into one of these newer industries, I have to buy $1 of Tesla. Because for the exact reason that you just said, I really, really believe in the power laws for some of these things. I really want to start, I said on the show as well, I want to start accumulating a Meta position as well, because I think they're fantastically positioned for AI and the next stage after phones, for example. And I think if you're going to participate in the newer companies, I think just having $1, for every dollar you do, this is just like a rule I made up for myself. Like, got to put $1 into one of the established ones that are really, really good at the moment. I don't know what you think about that.
I like it. I've been telling myself to buy some NVIDIA for a while now, because even if you were to hit the traditional metrics on it, it's still actually like really, really, I think it's experiencing 30% year-over-year growth, like PEs at like a modest, like basically S&P average. Like it's actually ridiculous. When people see the number in the market cap and they're going, oh my God, this thing's too expensive, it's got to go down. Then you look at like what it's actually doing, like, well, shit, it's actually like, if you go based on fundamentals, at least the accepted fundamentals, it's actually not that bad. Which, if you think power law is going to be a thing and these people at the top are going to continue to accumulate all this stuff, like, why would you expect that trend to stop? So,
also,
yes,
like a
going into it.
chicken sandwich in New York is like $27 now, so that's expensive as well. I've seen all this stuff recently. Like, okay, fine, this thing's expensive, but yeah, life is more expensive, and it's like, I don't know if people have necessarily calibrated all of that inflation that's happened in life into these elevated prices, which are clearly, riding up, at least in part, with inflation as well. So, do you want to say a final thing?
Personal anecdote: we went grocery shopping yesterday. We came out of the store with 2 bags, and we're like, why are these 2 bags $100? This is crazy.
It's just insane.
One thing I wanted to touch on as well is, because like Brett mentioned, this like concentration of capital in the power law. There was this interesting post by Based Carbon, who clustered some data that I've never seen clustered like that. And I found that very, very interesting in terms of like IPOs and IPO returns, opportunities that boomers had over 20 years. Apple, McDonald's, Microsoft, Intel, HD's, Home Depot, Nike, Amazon, eBay, with an average return of 4,175x. And millennial IPOs, average market cap was 20 bill, whereas like, I don't know, Home Depot IPO'd at 60 mil, Intel at 58, McDonald's at 33. Average market cap of quote unquote our generation's IPOs was 20.6 bill. And with our outliers, Facebook, Tesla, and Meta, which did an average return of 17.7x, Tesla 422x, is like basically still 10 times worse than the average return of the millennial IPOs that we had before. That kind of shows that like basically Base Carbon is making a point. Boomers had 3 decades of good IPO opportunities. Millennials had 3 good opportunities over the span of 20 years, being the big difference here. And kind of shows how like value and wealth is even more concentrating in the top of the successful IPOs and companies.
So the only thing I'd say on that, and we've got to get to the Yeet giveaway, the only thing I'd say on that is, yes, that is definitely true. The opportunities in the stock market have moved and been concentrated. The best ones were in the past, but this generation has then had the opportunity to buy Bitcoin.
Of course.
The opportunity, like, this is the thing that we've spoken about on the show a lot. Like, that generation had property at the most attractive prices ever and just got rich off property. every generation has its own opportunity, and it's really, really important that this generation doesn't fixate on the previous generation's opportunities, because you miss this generation's opportunity in front of you. And so, you know, buying Bitcoin at 16K was literally an opportunity for our generation, like, you know, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever the bear market was. So really, really important to just keep that in mind as well, that there are always new opportunities, and tethering yourself to the old ones can be limiting in some ways. But look, we're already run over today, and we have to get to our Yeet giveaway. Legendary, going to pass over to you here to shout out Yeet, our partners, and figure out who we're going to be giving $500 away to today.
Yes, absolutely. As you said, we are giving away $500 to someone who has signed up under our affiliate link on Yeet and has placed a bet over the last 7 days. So let's take a look at the Ether board to see what it looks like. We have another week where Funky is on top with 25K in wagered volume, followed by J Miles 8K and Atari God with 3.5K in wagered volume. A total of 14 people who participated, did 42K in total vol. Did apply a weighting formula for all of these entries. As per usual, I do change the weighting every week a bit so that we can't game that. We can't game that system. With that being said, let's head over. I have the wheel of names already on screen, with a Funky being the dominating entry, so to speak. And let's spin the wheel. Let's see who is taking home $500.
I think Funky's going to get it this time. I think, you know, he's got it before, but he's.
So too, yeah.
What are you going to say?
I don't want to jinx it, but I think Funky's going to take it away as well. Yeah.
I think he just might this time. He's been on the sidelines for a little bit here. Sidelined.
You know, Funky had his hand up during the show, and we didn't have a chance to go to him, so I would feel less bad if I can, you know, make up for that by.
Okay, let's do it. Press the button. Let's see.
Having the luck roll in his favor, the wheel spin in his favor.
I think he's going to have a chance today.
Yeah, no, it's.
No, he does not, because
it's Atari God. Atari God was number 3. Yeah,
number 3 on the list.
I listened to his space. I gave him a sprinkle of lucky fairy dust when I did that. I came drifting through the other day.
There we go. That's where the luck is. You've got to get bread to come through the space. Congrats to Atari God. Well done, my man. Good stuff. So what's the process here? We're going to get that over to them post-show today. Yes. And anything else we need to know to continue to participate with us?
Exactly. If you want to be entered for the raffle next week, sign up to Yeet using our link. The link is already posted in the comments. We'll also include it in the Spotify, Apple Music uploads, as well as on YouTube in the description once we have the timestamps going out. And please do remember to always only gamble for fun and gamble with amounts that you're comfortable losing.
Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. That was an interesting week. Hope you enjoyed the shows. As always, we'll be back same time, same place on the other side on Monday. Thank you to my co-hosts, Legendary and Bread. Thank you to everyone for joining us today and every other day this week. Reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, live on X Video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcast too. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on the other side. Bye-bye.